Welcome to West Virginia and Commonplace. It comes a time and point when I decided that For Too Many Podcasts was going to be the podcast that I'm going to endorse. I didn't say sponsor; I just said endorse. Sponsoring is a whole nother issue. They have to come talk to me in the legal group about that one day. But I have with me today Dez. Dez is the Monty Python member of his crew. You don't hear much from Dez. You know Dez exists because you see him on the advertisements, but you don't hear much from Dez unless you're listening to the episodes that he starts out. Very intelligent guy. He is a part of the milder comic relief inside his show because the true comic relief we all know is Doo Wop.
Yep.
Yeah, and you have a lot about you. And then the one thing that is charming that the world does not know is that you are the official technical guy for your group. If something has to be done, it comes through you. Jay Remy does a little bit with some designs. He's a good graphic design guy. But when it
hmm
comes to the nuts and bolts and the microphones and how everything's set up and how the sound works, how the memory is supposed to go for these episodes, it all falls back on you, Des. So,
That's
Des,
me.
real quick, Des, for the audience, real quick, give them a little bit of background on you and tell us your favorite moment inside of being a part of For Too Many Podcasts.
So I wanted to get into content creation for a long time. Um, it kind of one-off projects here and there when I was younger because I didn't really have the equipment, didn't really have all the ideas together. And then so when me and the guys were together and we had the initial talk about just running a podcast, um, I'm like, you know what? I got the tools for it. I got a computer, I got Audacity, I got a mic. Let's do it.
Okay. And,
so
go ahead.
um we got everything put together. We go and set up in the original studio. We hit the garage and I got my little, I'm trying to think of which computer it was, but it was a weaker computer. Um I think I was using the Yeti Snowball at the time. Yeah, I think the OG was the Yeti Snowball. Um, and we go out there, we go to record, nervous, can't even get an episode out. Um, and it seemed like every time something would go right, something else would go wrong. But my number one, like, um, the best thing that happened came from like the beginning, and I'm just talking about the beginning so far. Um, when we finally got through that first episode, and I go through and edit. Back then, I felt like editing was like a nightmare. Um, it's gotten so much easier over time now that we've kind of melted together. But initially, that for getting through that first edit and getting the episode up after it was finally up and people start watching it and people were like, "Oh, this is good," and I'm like, "Oh, thank God." Getting that first episode done and actually being able to sit back and like, we did this, we made this, that was top tier.
Okay. Now, y'all do video and audio. So that is a hard scenario. Y'all run it on, at one point, you had it on Patreon. You run it on YouTube every Friday. And you guys have the greatest setup ever because um, people give me a certain respect in podcasting because they consider me some kind of OG or something. I don't worry with all that stuff, but I say this:
Yeah.
you guys have the greatest structure. And when I do my courses, I have talked about you guys in this last course because you guys set a certain narrative. We can go back and I'll give you an example. On January 31st, there was an episode: Serve, Protect, and Donate. That episode was started. It's your episode. You gauge the episode, and each episode that y'all have had, I want to say going back pretty deep. I got heavy into the style right around Thanksgiving. I think you did the Thanksgiving episode too. Then
Yeah.
I noticed that narrative that one would carry it, and then the rest would follow. And it almost seemed like you guys were writing this out and structuring it. And then me being to a point, I know that y'all structured something somewhere. Somebody wrote it down on a piece of paper or something.
Yeah.
But the camaraderie between you guys, after you listen from the days, like you said, when you first started to where you are now, it is amazing that you can set the theme for a show and y'all can continue the show. The one that me and Irish Steve were listening to, we were in Mentor, Ohio. It was the one that had y'all guys were talking about Travis Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that episode right there got us because we were somewhere through Akron, and y'all shows have a little bit of link to them. So we got from Akron to we were. I always say New Philadelphia, even though wasn't New Philadelphia. We got somewhere near a shopping center. It was about
Yeah.
there near some spot, and we sat and we talked about the episode after we listened to it. We were at Sheets or something, and we were basically like, y'all made valid points about Travis Scott, but everybody put a dig in. It wasn't like just one person blabbed on too much, blah blah blah. And in other episodes that you listen to, you can hear certain narratives. Like when you listen to a sock or doo wop episode, it starts out fairly hard, and then it gets comical, and then it gets even more comical. But you and Jay Remy have a comic, like y'all guys are like the variety show. And
Right.
no disrespect to any other member, but it's when you hear it from someone else, it starts clicking in your head. So you hear this amazing variety show with you guys on it, and it makes me think back to like the early '70s Saturday night. I mean, the mid '70s Saturday Night Live. Not in a racial way or
Okay.
anything, but if you can go back and you
No, I
look
got
at
that.
some of that stuff, you can see the flow that I'm talking about there.
Yep.
So that's the type of comedy that you don't get now. And some like I was saying to do up when we are talking, sometimes you and Jay Remy almost go to the line of Dane Cook type funny, which that type of funny is. If you know that funny, then it's fine. So how do you keep with being the Monty Python, like the mild comedy and the serious? I mean, you're not always serious, but you're kind of
Right.
serious to a degree. How do you keep that good flow going amongst all these jokesters?
So it's funny because my humor my entire life has been that kind of
Seinfeld.
yeah, it's a little more like it's that dry, kind of dark, is very subtle. It's a very subtle humor, and that's been my humor forever. Like I was a Seinfeld fan, even like, and I was little at the time. My favorite show of all time is King of the Hill. Yeah, literally, I have friends, I have family in Texas, but I've been once. So a lot of the references went over my head the first time I saw this show. And I watched it again, and I watched it again, and I looked up some references, and I've had conversations with some of my family, and I'm like, now I understand. And it melded with me. That kind of humor is my thing. So when you put me in a room with Doo-Wop, that's the bombastic comedy, like
Chris
in your
Farley.
face.
Chris
Yes.
Farley.
Yes. And then you got Socks, who has one-liners for days. And then you got Jay Remy, who is like the best hype man you could ever have. Like that's if having Jay Remy in the podcast is like having Lil Jon in every song. That is
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, we all kind of got roles here. I get it. And I could put mine, like my shtick fits in with everybody else because it's just another shade. Everybody else has a different type of comedy. Okay, I can let my personality come out kind of naturally here. I'm good with that. And that's kind of as we transition from kind of putting the shows together and doing it as a group to in the individual episodes kind of switching off. It did end up giving the different episodes a personality, and that's what I liked most about that transition. You can tell the difference between my episode and Doo-Wop's episode, and we all try to include, but it's the same show, and you can still hear that it's the same show.
Yes, and that's the genius I'm talking about there. And going with that, like it's crazy because you haven't heard the interview yet. I nailed it to a T when I told Doo-Wop. I said you're like Seinfeld. I was sitting back and like I explained to you, it's 8 of us in our team, but there's 2 of us that you hear. So when we discuss the different episodes and different things that we listen to inside the podcast, I don't get to listen to everybody's episode all the time, but someone in our collective listens every week. So they bring back the discussion because that's the greatest thing about a podcast, and that's what I like about y'all's podcast, and I want to commend you on that. You guys put a good structure in there, so you give somebody something to talk about for at least 4 days or 5 days. Might be 7, but 4 days is the maximum I'm gonna give you. And I'm like, wow, that holds tight there. But yeah, when I was talking to Dewap, I was like, yes, Seinfeld all day long, Monty Python. I said it's a British type humor. I said it's a mixture of these guys. It's Frasier to a degree, and Seinfeld if they had a love child. Because Frasier, Kelsey Grammer, is a great comedian, but you got to follow the humor.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't follow the humor, then you'll feel uneducated because you're getting educated with the joke.
Yeah.
And that's the greatest thing I want to give you there, and I want you to keep that. So going into other details, you are a streamer, you are a gamer. This is one thing that in everything I've listened to, I really haven't seen you pull this out that much. And some of y'all's listen different things you do, but you are a Twitch gamer. What was the first game that got you started on video gaming? Let me give you a little bit of time here. This magical thing I do called filler, so you can think about everything, get your story nice and lined up and shiny. I'll tell you this: what got me started was I was born in 1985, so I was born with a Nintendo Entertainment System. At the age of 2, I was playing Super Mario. By the age of 3, I had a Commodore 64, so I had to learn how to run and do the command to get Oregon Trail to work.
Yeah.
By 1990, I had a TurboGrafx 16, so I was playing maybe the first Street Fighter, something like that. By 1992, I was facing off against people in Street Fighter 2 tournaments. Street Fighter is the strongest game in my catalog. I will not play with anybody that does not know how to play because that's an ass whooping you don't want. Because I can give you 10 seconds to move around the screen and you're out of the game. It doesn't matter which one, Ultra, Street Fighter, whatever. And the upcoming Street Fighter 6, I don't know yet because you never know with them. But mainly it was that Super Mario, and then the idea we didn't know what speed running was back then, but speed running through something like that. Now RPGs, that's a whole nother story. We might have to just do a whole nother podcast on that because Final Fantasy VII to me was the most pivotal game. Final Fantasy VII and that Metal Gear Solid on the PlayStation defined how I play games now.
Okay. Okay.
So let me know what got you started and what's defining how you play games now.
So it's funny that you say that. So I'm pure 90s baby, 1991.
Okay.
So I grew up with the Super Nintendo.
Okay.
My very first game, Super Mario World.
Ooh.
And between Super Mario World, Donkey Kong Country 1 and 2, Mega Man X, and there was one more game before I got to actually 2 more games. It was Mickey Mouse.
Oh, I know which one. Was it the Mickey Mouse Castle of Illusions or the one with the beanstalk? Probably Castle of Illusions.
Castle of Illusions.
Yeah. That tough ass Aladdin game.
And then the Mickey Mouse game I beat first. That was the first game I beat, and my mom would play with me at first, and then it got to a point where time to cook dinner. You keep playing, and she turned her back on me for about an hour, 45 minutes. Came back, and I had to beat the game. Mario was like that too. That was her favorite game to play with me because I would sit there and actually we would be getting through the whole thing like it was nothing. And I think Donkey Kong Country was one where it was another, me and her would go through the whole game together. And then as I started to get better and better, that Mega Man X was the last one. That I went from I just like running around shooting everything to I beat the game in one sitting. And my mom was watching. It's like, dang, he really likes these video games. So I got a N64 and a Game Boy Color.
Ooh.
And it's funny because when I really got into the Pokemon show, so she had to get me the games, and that's actually how I got into RPGs.
Was Pokemon okay? Was it yellow or was it red or blue? Which one got you?
I had red and yellow.
Okay.
Um, red, I didn't even get to finish before I got yellow, and I loved that game. Played through that game multiple times easily. Um, on 64, I had Donkey Kong 64, Mario 64, Smash Brothers.
Ooh, that's my game too.
Smash Brothers, that got into a whole another realm for me because I was like, okay, I like fight games too. I'm like, okay, I'm starting to get in these RPGs and these adventure platformers. I like fighting games too. So I was starting to build more like kind of a diverse feel for um different genres, and I was starting to just absorb everything. And it was great for me because in everything I did, I had that one cousin, I had that one friend, I had that one somebody in my life that was better than me. So I would always have to get better and get better and get better. Um, then we hit PlayStation 1. As soon as we got the PlayStation 1, I was like on the fence about it. I'm like, I'll stick to my Nintendo because my dad, he had Resident Evil. Uh,
Oh,
Resident Evil and Siphon Filter, I think it was, that scared me. Um, but then he also had Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy Tactics, and Metal Gear Solid. So I'd sit there and sneak down the stairs and like, oh, is he playing the zombie one? No, okay, I can watch this one and go down there and sit and watch. And then it got to the point where I'm like, okay, I gotta play this one myself. And I played which one first? Metal Gear Solid, I think I played first. And it took me so long to like start to figure out like, all right, I'm not running around just shooting everything. I'm actually being stealthy. Okay, what's the whole thing with Psycho Man is how do I beat this guy? I don't understand. I can't even. And that got me to think about games a little differently. And then I played Tactics before I played Final Fantasy VII, and that threw me for a whole different loop because I was playing Tactics and I fell in love with that game. The story, I was getting a little older, so I was able to understand um, at least the basics of the story. Um, get the battle system, the job system. I was like starting to actually get this stuff down. I'm like, okay, now this is different from Pokemon. I'm getting strategy going on now. And then I played seven, and I wish I could appreciate seven then as much as I do now, because I was really into that game. I loved that game. Um, but it wasn't like my initial first playthrough. Since I was younger, it didn't click in my head as much as my second and third playthrough, and then recent playthroughs now. Now that I can fully understand the story, I'm like, well, shoot, I slept on a masterpiece kind of a little bit. Like,
yeah.
but I was younger. I got parts of I understood parts, but I didn't understand others. And that's something I had to grow into. But being able to get through these games and play them so early in my life, um, I got to really appreciate good games earlier than a lot of people that would just be fine with playing like just the Disney licensed games, just the Nickelodeon licensed games, and be cool. Because I had a lot of family members that was like, "Oh yeah, games was cool when I was young. How I don't understand how you lasted so long playing them." And then they see what they look like now, and like, "Oh, okay. I guess I would still play that as an adult." Like, and that was just um not everybody could understand. So like um coming up from PlayStation, I stuck with it ever since. I've had at least one console in every generation since. So, and like now now that I'm like grown, I'm like, all right, what can I do to get every console of the generation? I mean, I kind of refined my taste a little bit. I'm not jumping out like I'm not gonna go bankrupt over PS5 or Series
One X.
X.
Yeah.
But I'll keep the sentiment. I'm gonna keep watching the prices and keep watching the stock, but I'm gonna stick with my PC for now. I'm cool with what I can do on my PC, and then I still have my Switch. And if something does come out, I still have my PS4 and my Xbox One. So I'm not completely out.
I feel you on
Um,
that.
but it's been um what I've been into for literally ever. So much so that um it's what I go to school for. Like it's everything. It's like probably about 60% of the aspects of my life have to do with gaming. um I'm going to school for game design now, on top of trying to make some success out of content creation. I want to get in the gaming industry from one avenue or another. Um, and it's kind of crazy because the game that inspired me to pursue it so hard was Final Fantasy Tactics.
That's crazy. Of
Like,
all games, yeah, like Final Fantasy
yep,
Tactics. Because I'm gonna say this. All right, Final Fantasy Tactics. What did I have it on? It came out. Was it on a PlayStation? Was it on PSP?
yep,
I swear it was on PSP. I skipped it on the original PlayStation because at that time it was so many different games going on. Like
yeah.
Resident, like you said about your dad, Resident Evil, kind of took me for a twist. And one weird thing, and I would like to let people know this is Resident Evil 2. It is one of my fan favorite games because you can play it on pretty much any system. But when I had it on the Nintendo 64,
Mm-hmm.
which it ain't a rarity, but it's rarity now to find.
Yeah. Now, yeah.
Resident Evil 2 on the I was about to say Nintendo Switch. Nintendo 64 did me in. But one thing I will say, Final Fantasy Tactics with the class system or job system and all that stuff, that game was structured to a degree. Because I remember it was one of the highly sought after games before you could get it readily, you know. And I'll just say this, and you can probably give me some shame on this. When Final Fantasy came out mobile, Final Fantasy 7 came out mobile wise. I played
Mm-hmm.
it. I played it on my iPad. And this is crazy. You said something about Mega Man X. Mega Man X. I still have my iPhone today. I speed run through that game because that was the hardest game on Super Nintendo. And like you said, nowadays with video games, it's kind of like I ended up with systems because like a rival store from where I work at called Meyer, they have PlayStations and I get a little advance on when they get there. So I gotta
Mm-hmm.
play. The 5 was easy to find. It's just you got to be in Toledo or Dayton. You're not gonna find it on your end of Ohio.
Yep.
Just being truthful, because for some
Yep.
reason somebody out y'all's ways got them on lockdown. But like you said, it's not necessary to have these systems right now because the only thing that I think that's happening to video gaming wise is that the computers and then the rise of cloud gaming. Cloud
Mm-hmm.
gaming, being able to stream it with a high, um, having great internet, you can almost get the best graphics on any gaming laptop for a console experience if you want to get you a Steel Series controller and you're good to go.
Yep.
So I think that's the divide now between consoles and PC because PC still has its keyboard and mouse deal. I'll always give you that. But to some degree, it's like the systems. Do I really want to buy this because it's going to be right out streaming on a streaming service from these same people, Xbox or PlayStation,
Yep.
in 6 months? So it is a hard draw, if you do buy these things. So moving forward with things. So you're the technical guy for your show. What is it like having that kind of pressure on you? And this is a behind the scenes question now because here's the thing, and I'm gonna make it hard for you real fast. You're responsible for the show. If you don't get the show running, no offense to any guy in your camp, but they can't get that show running. Some people in your group don't even know what an iPhone looks like. So, and that's not harsh on them, but I do mess with Dewap about that. But yeah, so what is it like? What is that pressure like to be able to, after you record the show, have that show ready to come out as a podcast?
So that's one of those It's rough but fulfilling. Um, I feel like I do everything I can not to miss a show. Like I I've shown up sick. Like shown up sick, and like I felt like I had to be there. Like it's not COVID. Okay, I'm going. Like that but it's it sucks from so many different angles because I know it's something that's going to be I know exactly how it's going to be alleviated. It's going to be alleviated later, but to get there it sucks. But it's just rough to know that if anything goes down with me, that's the whole show. Like anybody else could take off and cool. All right. We'll either fill them in or not. It's cool. But I can't take a day off or there is no show though for that week. And I'm like, it sucks, but it's something that I want to do. It keeps me accountable for doing it because um I have some problems with when the stress gets this far over the limit, then stuff starts to fall to the wayside. So knowing that there's no show for a whole week, if I don't show up, gets me to show up.
Now let me ask you this: do y'all now have like some kind of fail safe or something to work out? Because you guys do your show every week. Do you guys have anything like stockpiled or anything extra in the background? Because I'll tell you this: like they call me the Tupac or the whatever of podcasting because my show is done all the way up until 2023. Like outside of these episodes, like the bread and butter Thursday show, like I get in a tangent and like I'll take 30 days and record 60 shows
Okay.
just because I make sure whatever I'm recording is not time relevant. Like we're not going to talk about what we're talking about with Xbox and stuff like that now.
Yep.
This show will come out obviously earlier than that, but
Right.
um, I stockpile episodes for the simple fact like I'm like sometimes man I need a break. So like right now while we're doing this podcast, I'm actually on a break, and it's just easy. This was fun because we didn't plan it. We talked about it one day. You were good last night, but I was in the gym, so I was like, nah, we can't do that. I'm in the gym trying to get buff
Yep.
again.
You
Get
good.
ready.
Yep.
Yeah, trying to get out here. I'm only trying to get buff for this Smash Brothers tournament in Columbus. Call COST. I'll talk to you about it later.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
yeah, I'm a Smash Brothers player. If you are a decent player, we'll definitely link up on that.
See, that's the thing. That's what I was saying. There's always somebody that's in my life that's better than me, and they make me better. So we're gonna have to play.
Definitely, definitely. And with that whole community is crazy. So like, how do you find time to manage all this with the podcast? Because I'll be honest with you, I've run three different fashions. The video game portion, which we're going to be launching on March 15th. The cinema portion where we do those mini projectors, which sometimes I turn that into a video game experience. And then the actual podcast. Like how do you handle all that you're doing? And then eventually this is going to spin off into another podcast. You're going to push this video game further, and you're going to have to put out a show detailing your struggles with why you don't like Zelda or whatever Japanese RPG you don't like.
So the balance, which right now it's kind of um creating that balance, but it all comes in with scheduling. Um I know, like, as long as I'm working 9 to 5, um I know Fridays I got four too many, so that day is on lock. I have right now personal things on uh Tuesdays and Thursdays. So that takes me out of those days. But like there are times when I can work around them and times when I can't. And I know as soon as the days when I can work around it come up, all right, what am I doing? Am I streaming? Am I doing a late mini stream? Am I recording for a video? Am I going to do one of my podcasts? And then my Monday and Wednesday, those are my free days. Those are the days that I'll always tell everybody that I'm free. And Mondays, usually those will turn into stream days. That's time to stream. Wednesday, it's time to record. I got to do one of I do my actual podcast myself. I'm going to do every other week. So one will come out on one week, the other one will come out on the following week. I kind of keep my main one condensed to an hour, and I keep the other one that I'm starting condensed to about a half hour. So I'm not burning myself out on any podcasts. But I'm like, shoot, getting to start with 3 projects going, like 3 big projects, and still doing streams and still doing YouTube videos. It's all scheduling. It's that time management comes in clutch when you're actually trying to get stuff done and then still have a life on top of that. Because like I'm like, shoot, if I don't like schedule something, figure something out, I'm doing this on this day at this time, then I'll go weeks and not touch it and be like, well, it'll come up eventually. But as soon as I have it scheduled, boom, I can get it done. And I still have time to play this off stream, or I still have time to watch this show, or there's still a couple hours where I could go hang out with so and so. Like, I can still fit stuff in when it's scheduled. When it's not, I'm in shambles.
Okay. And see, I used to be like that with the schedule, but now I guess since I'm like the Kanye West of podcast, and I just pop up and we do these things and just roll out from there. So let us know about these other podcasts that you got going on. Let us know about what else is going on with you, because the thing is that each one of you all are like new edition. One of y'all is going to turn into the Bobby Brown at your group, and I hate that because when one of y'all turns into Bobby Brown, y'all might not break up, but everybody has their own ventures coming out. And where I'm the inside guy, I mean, you might know about the ventures, but I want to know about the ventures before anybody else, even before you think
Right.
about it. So, I've already heard of the mentions of what Doo-Wop's doing. So let's go into detail about what your solo efforts are. And do you think, first off, before you tell me anything, do you think you're going to be the Bobby Brown of this group, or do you hope that you're going to be one of the other members of New Edition that had some success, but they always knew they had to come back to New Edition?
So let's see, part 1. My 2 podcasts, I'm kind of trying to tie it into what my YouTube channel is about. So my main show, the Project Serious podcast, that's more of a variety, gaming, entertainment, tech show. And I kind of try to structure it like kind of a 3-tier. I hit 3 different points that gives me 20 minutes to talk about each one, and then boom, we're out. It gives me some flexibility to where if I want to do something special, I always have my little 3-tier structure to fall back on if that falls through. Okay. My other project, my smaller project, is pretty much my dev diary. Me going through school, trying to learn learn game design. It's kind of gonna be my way to get that informational yet still chill style content out there. I'm actually starting, like, I'm gonna be putting out my first episode of that one soon. And it's kind of following what I went through in my first core class. Because it's really basics, like what is a game designer, what's a good game, what what helps a designer learn the structure of a game, and like some real basic like introduction to type thing. So I kind of want to explore some of the stuff that I picked up in that class, and actually just for that being my first core class, I might be able to publish my own game, a card game out of it. Okay. So that whole series is going to be kind of my journey from being a gamer to a game designer, and that in tandem with my little gaming variety show is gonna give you got the funny is here, and you might get some laughs, but you're gonna learn something here. And I kind of get to switch that off, um, hopefully twice in a month, depending on how many days in that month.
Okay, okay. Now, definitely, audience, after this podcast, like every guest that's on my show, Des is writing the show notes for this anyway. So he will put links to everything that you can get a hold of him and his podcast. And I will actually have to pick up your podcast and listen to that. I have to tell you that I was not aware of the second one. I had heard y'all talking about another podcast, but 3 podcasts. So once again, inside your group, I'm giving you inside intel right now. You guys are branching off. And you got all kinds of stuff going on between the groups.
Yep.
So that's going to be crazy. Hopefully that you guys keep it together. I don't want y'all to break up over nothing stupid, but just stay tight with it, because I've seen way too many podcasts. What happens, and I get to see far too many podcasts this happens to, is they get out here and your creative juice gets jumping, and then the main show becomes what you jump off of, and you get your own show, and your other show starts doing better. Because when it's your own baby, like this is my baby to a degree, you start doing things different. And when it's 4 of you, that's 4 opinions. One of y'all on the technical side, one on you on the comedic relief, 2 of you doing whatever. I'm not gonna give those positions, but so just stay tight with that. Now, inside the show.
Well, you just reminded me of the part 2 of the other question you asked.
Oh, go ahead.
So out of the group, especially with what you just said, I don't think I'll be the Bobby Brown, but I hope that I am. The only reason that I hope that I am is because I guess because I know the reference that I already know. As soon as I see it, I'm like, no, hold on, ego, calm down, go back. That's your home. You come here to have fun. That's your home. Go back to For Too Many. Like, I keep it together that way. I'm like, nope, I see the signs already. Bring it back.
Okay, because like Bobby Brown did leave New Edition, and he had one of the most stellar careers. If you look at his accolades, his personal life is something different, but accolade-wise, releasing that many albums, and they were all platinum successes, and then he stopped. He realized that he was at a point he wasn't going to do nothing else great, so he just left it there. See, that quick success or that longevity, we never worried about that with Bobby Brown. But when it comes, it comes. So on this show, I pay homage to 2020. It's a news magazine that used to come on ABC. It still comes on sometimes. You can catch it on Hulu, guys, and I'm not getting sponsored by them, so I just threw in that Hulu ad, so Hulu will think about sponsoring me. Diane Sawyer was on there, John Stossel, and then you have Barbara Walters. Barbara Walters is considered probably one of the best journalists in the world. Inside podcasting, I'm a journalist. I do believe in let's have fun. Let's do this and that. But at the heart of things, questions, things that make you more personable to people. Those are the questions you get from me. So it's time, Des, for your 2020 questions. Are you ready?
All right. Yeah.
Okay. You get out here in the world, you produce these shows, you hear the quality, you see the stats, you see the numbers. And this is a question that I ask everyone, because this is the hardest question to answer. And I ask it cleverly on everything I do. I repeat it, like anytime that I've been on y'all's lives, I will ask your crew the same question, but I'll just reword it. Mm-hmm. In podcasting, we have highs and lows, but we have one thing that hurts all of us, and that's a disappointment. So inside podcasting, I'm just gonna give you the bare bone question to start it off. What has been your biggest disappointment in podcasting? And I'll give you mine real quick, and it's the same one over and over. My biggest disappointment is this. It's podcast reciprocity. I have an episode coming out about this. You guys show love to my podcast. You share it whenever something comes out, blah, blah, blah. Y'all do that. So even before you did that, I will showcase your episode on my story, because that's where my creepers go, and where everybody else that can't put a like on my page because we have internal beef or something like that. But they go over there. I know way more people look at my story than probably the likes I get, just because you can search somebody even if you don't like them no more and keep up with them.
Yep.
With that being said, we all have a mutualistic deal. Sometimes you guys post some things. I like that y'all had a message that y'all were generating. I didn't know y'all were doing that manually. I thought y'all had it automated to send to each person that's on your Instagram list that your shows were coming out. So I really dig that. A few podcasters didn't like it. and y'all went rounds with them and just put them to the side, put them back in your memories museum, and got rid of them. But my problem comes in is that sometimes we have these people, these podcasters that come along, and I'm saying podcasters, I'm not saying fans, I'm saying directly podcasters. They want you to hype their stuff up. They want to be center of attention on what you're doing. They want to get on the live show. They want to do this and that. But they don't even want to promote it. And that is my biggest disappointment in podcasting, because like when I do these shows, I'm probably the biggest marketing or podcaster when it comes to, if your show does good, I'm gonna promote the hell out of it. When it starts out, I'm gonna give you 6 weeks of promotion. Like this episode will get 6 weeks. You'll send me a picture. I'm gonna cut it out, put it on Canva, or the virtual assistant, whoever's gonna do it. Once somebody's gonna make an ad, your ad is gonna be entrenched in people's minds for 6 months. That's how much dedication I have into you and to you being on my show, no matter who the guest is. If it does even better than that, it comes back as a classic. I might represent that shit for 2 years, just depending on the nature of the conversation. But for some reason in podcasting, these people like just think that you're supposed to put them on your showcase, which y'all showcases. You got your Friday night show, y'all do that yourselves. But Tuesday, y'all kind of do what I call my podcast collide episodes. Y'all bring a podcast on or some individuals, and y'all shine light on them. And I don't know if the people promote it, but whenever y'all advertise me or have me on, I'm gonna promote that shit through the roof. And I'm gonna watch how y'all promote it to see if I need to keep the same energy or do I need to put it in hyperdrive. If you guys are putting it in medium drive, well, we're gonna do medium drive because it's reciprocity. I'm not gonna go overstep my bounds, blah blah blah. But sometimes there's issues. People will post something, and I'm guilty of this. People will post something, and I'll look at it and I'll just go past it. If it's not advertising for your show, if you just put a meme up or you're celebrating something, you might ask, who has a conspiracy theory? I'm guilty of that with y'all guys. Y'all asked that, and I went past it. I was busy doing something, and then one of you guys asked me what my conspiracy theory was. So I came back to it and I answered it. That could be misconstrued as me not, showing love back, but it was just one of the times I was scrolling. So in those instances, I can see where someone would get a tiff, but where we go back and forth so much with sharing stuff, I never see an issue. It's just those people that I don't ever care for someone to share my stuff. But if I'm sharing your stuff, man, and I don't care about Instagram likes because they don't make no money or do nothing for me, but show me some type of appreciation later on, even if it's just unannounced that I don't ever see. Like something there. It's just some people like I had to learn in this business that I cannot promote or help because once I help them, they get the game twisted, and when I don't help them, they come at me. So, what is your biggest disappointment in podcasting?
So I feel what you got. Like it's funny because that same issue that's in every facet of entertainment, especially like alternative media, I'll say. Because YouTube, Twitch, no matter where they all have those same kind of problems. And it's funny that I feel like with a lot of my major disappointments, like a lot of the disappointments people have, it's along a lot of the same lines. There's a few different things that people usually come up with that's pretty normal for podcasting. Um, Mine personally, it would have been that, but I was so ready for that for the YouTube world that it kind of went it passed me by. Like the follow for follow thing, the sub for sub thing, all that everybody does. And you'll get people that they'll do it, but they don't care. They're not going to watch your content. They're not going to like and comment and this, that, and the third. So I was already ready for that. So that didn't even disappoint me coming in the gate because I was ready for it. My biggest disappointment is when your technology can't keep up with you. Before I got my upgraded laptop, doing the show, it just everything was going so good. It was going fine. It's cool. Then we kind of upgrade. We move the studio. We get better mic. We get cameras. I'm like, okay, so we're upgrading, but I'm still on the same computer. We're still doing shows. It still sounds fine. We're still going good. All right, now we want to start having guests on. Okay, that's something I can figure out we can do. It's cool. It works a couple times. I'm confident in it because it's worked a couple times. We go to do it, everything just crashes. Okay, so now I'm sitting here like, well, what can I do? I'm sitting here trying to fix it. I'm like, it went from my second job to my first job because in my normal life I'm an IT guy. So this turned into a help ticket like real quick. And I'm sitting here like, are we not gonna get the show out? What do I have to do to fix this? We go get that problem at least alleviated for the moment, go through everything, think everything's fine, go do something again, more problems. And it's like, every time it happens, it's just like, now you did this right yesterday. If in person I was dealing with, I can just tell you, I'm like, look, you did this right yesterday. So do again what you did yesterday. And they would go and do it. Computers don't work that way. So I feel like that's really my biggest thing. When, like, now that I've got the upgrade, we still had a couple of technical difficulties, but nothing to the point like, oh, we're losing a whole show or something is completely botched now because X, Y, and Z happened.
Okay. And I can go firmly with that when I was using Windows. That leads into my next question because everyone knows that I am a Apple guy. Like no chops about it. It's oranges and apples. But here's the one thing, because you're a technical guy, so you see all forms and everything that goes along. Everything that you're talking about was software related, correct? And internet and stuff like that. So it didn't matter the device.
Well, not necessarily.
Oh.
Some of our issues were like at the root of it all, it was hardware because didn't have enough power to do what I'm trying to do. But
you fixed that.
It happens. I was like, that was a all right. We'll do this little fix for now, and then hopefully a couple weeks later we'll have a new computer and we don't have to worry about this anymore. But when it is a software issue, like the recent issues have all been software issues, and that's growing pains of switching completely from Streamlab OBS to OBS Studio. But other than that,
and we've talked a great deal about that. So let's get to a real hard question. What keeps you guys from using Apple products? And let me put some filler in here real fast. Me and you both know that I have a strong issue with how I'm trying to do my Twitch. Twitch is something that runs way better. Any OBS stuff runs way better on a Windows-based product because Apple put certain limitations on their software. But my argument is, from a multimedia perspective, if me and the rest of you guys from 42 Mini were going to do a podcast and we weren't doing it live, we were just doing it, recording it, I hands down think Mac products are better because I can get you all on 4 Yetis on GarageBand, give you 4 empty tracks, bounce those tracks together, and make probably the purest sound you can find. And that's just my true. That's because my DAW. Yeah. That's because my DAW is our digital audio workstation could either be Logic or it could be GarageBand. And I mean, if you got Pro Tools on Windows, yeah, you're equal. And if you got Audacity and you know what you're doing, you got me. But fine tuning, not talking about video podcasting, but actually talking about the audio. Just if y'all were going to do this heartfelt radio show, I feel like a Mac is untouchable. What's your thoughts?
So a lot of it kind of comes down to personal bias because I will admit the multimedia capabilities of a Mac. I do understand. That's why when you're in a design lab, it's all Macs. I do understand that. But
Uh-oh.
um software wise, I've always run into problems, and they're a lot harder to fix than what I come across in Windows. But a lot of that does come down to like that's what I'm trained to do. That like that's what I went to school for, so that's what I know how to do, and that's what I've always had, so that's what I've been able to learn with. But every time I have an issue, like um in the beginning, me just running Audacity, that sounded leagues above where I thought we were going to start. Listening to where other people started, um, just running Audacity with a Snowball and a Garage was still doing like, well, spinning circles around a lot of people because a lot of people are starting trying to do their podcast on a cell phone or a $20 Amazon mic. And there's a lot of things that you can fix in software that will make a Windows computer comparable to a Mac with your suite of products. Uh, I, for me to own something or for me to have something like when we upgrade to the next studio, um, putting something in there, I feel better knowing that I can make it as powerful as my money can afford it. And whenever I need to swap something out or upgrade something, I can do it that day, no questions asked. Boom. I don't have to buy specific or a specific computer or make a Hackintosh just to get what I can get out of what I can build now.
Okay, I got your argument on that one, and I can agree with you on that. And let's talk into the aspect of engineering because you're the AV guy, so you're the sound guy for you guys. I will tell you this: in my journey, the greatest concoction I've come up with and I've seen, and this was just last week. And this is you can use Surface or iPad, whatever. This guy hooked the interface up with XLR mics with an iPad, and he showed me with the Microsoft Surface. Microsoft Surface, he had, I think it was Pro Tools. I forgot what he was using to record live. He wouldn't do a video. Video is a whole nother aspect. Video,
Yeah.
to me with video podcasting, and I'll just say this real fast, and you can give me your opinion on this. Video podcasting, you got to have something strong. OBS Studio or something along that lines. And we had something that me and you were both discussing behind the scenes. I want to figure that out because I've seen a lot of people using it. And anyway, but just going on basic audio. So this guy set it up. The iPad, he had and this is all mind you running off the power of the iPad. This is not hooked up to any power source. Audio interface, XLR mics. So he set up 3 mics, ran GarageBand, and he had the levels and he was basically recording a podcast from an iPad. I was impressed. Did the Surface the same way. He did use Audacity or something to that degree. Hooked up the mics once again. Had to get the extra little double port he used the USB mics, which they were Yetis. And I will tell everybody I stand by the Yeti. G Hub will get your sounding just as good because one thing that people lack when they're talking trash about Yetis, we do have audio interface built into our microphones. Just want to put that out there. So
yep.
So your take on this? What do you think is the craziest concocted way y'all have done like an episode, like rigging something up with your computer?
So the craziest way. So I can just go through the stages. The first setup was my original the little Toshiba laptop, the Snowball on my little it was one of those floor mic stands.
Okay.
Pushed so it was draped over the table and as close to the middle as it could possibly be. And just running Audacity on the little Toshiba. that was not the Toshiba. Lenovo. That was the
Oh
Lenovo.
shit!
Yeah, it was the Lenovo. That's where I had the most issues. Weaker computer. Okay, Mike. That, like, for starting out, I will endorse the Snowball. If you're on a budget, I will endorse the Snowball. Upgraded the Snowball to the Yeti.
Yeti X.
First, it was a Yeti.
I just the Yeti. Then you went to the Yeti.
Yep, and then I went to the Yeti X recently before I started taking my stuff more off the ground. See, the cameras, we still, it is funny because every time I look at the episode, I'm like, dang, I always forget those were some cheap cameras on Amazon. So that does lead me to the craziest setup. Yep. Right after we moved, we had with a USB hub, 4 mics, 4 cameras on my Lenovo.
The thing was burning slow, wasn't it? Was it moving?
Oh, it sounded, that episode sounded bad. It didn't look great. All the problems we could have, we would have them. And I didn't even think to try and like bring that setup back because we have a more powerful computer, because it's working the way it is. So I'm leaving it alone until we're ready to upgrade. But the 4 mics, which they were half decent mics, I just think we couldn't get them tweaked the way we needed them. We tried so many things. We had cardboard dividers to make sure we got to keep our sound to ourselves. Like, we were doing the most when we tried that. And if that would have worked initially, like out of box, the podcast would be crazy right now. Like, it's already wild, but it would be crazy. But condensing it down to the going back to the Yeti and then upgrading to the Yeti X, and then cutting down from the 4 cameras to 2, it helped a lot. And it's not so all over the place. It's not so crazy. It sounds good. It looks fine. I'm like, okay, this I can stand behind.
All right.
I can be a part of this. Yeah, that's cool.
All right. So one thing I do need to get y'all guys to do for me one day is all y'all need to get in one place, right? And I need y'all to do it live, all 4 of you. Just do it from a cell phone or a tablet or something. I want to see y'all do that one day. All right, so now let's get into the nitty gritty, because we did a little technical question there. So you were kind of nice. You didn't bash Apple too bad. You were nice.
No, because I understand it. Like, before, like, if you would have caught me when shortly after, well, actually after I got my first IT job, if you would have caught me right after I got my first IT job, no, never Apple, nothing. It's just the most complete garbage. I'll never in my life. Now I just want on the phones. I'm cool. I'm a little cool on Apple products because I understand the usefulness of them. I get, like, the one thing, y'all have a lot less viruses out there than we do.
Well, hold on. Let me say this, and I always say this in a defense, and this is nice. We don't have fragmentation, because if you buy a high-end Galaxy device, your phone's gonna be updated for a while. But if you buy that medium tier, the 822 3000 Samsung that's $280 at Walmart, your phone might not ever get upgraded. But that's the only gripe I've ever had with Apple. I mean, with Android, is that if I didn't buy, I was a Galaxy Note guy. I still am. I got a Galaxy Note 8. It's far more powerful than this 13 Pro. It does more. I mean, it ain't got many cameras, but I still use it on the low. But anyway, we can't talk too much about that.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that. But yeah, that was my only thing there. And just Android as a whole, I love it for my projectors and all that, my other devices, but I just can't. Chromebook's not going to do anything for me.
So that's the biggest shortcoming of the whole thing, and that's why I'm like, that's not Android, that's Chrome OS. Like I have to disown Chromebooks.
And mind you, my background, I don't usually talk about it. I worked for a company up your way. I worked in cloud solutions for a company called VM. Uh,
Okay.
so I'm an Azure guy. So computer info systems degree, So
Yeah.
I remember, that's why I said that once I found out about you and someone told me a story about you, I was like, man, this guy got a lot in common. I was like, if I ever go back up there and go work in Polaris, I said I might get this dude to come work with me. So
Hey.
that's something behind the scenes we'll talk about, because I would like to get you
Yeah.
in touch with some of those guys, because that's a different speed out there. But anyway, so
Right.
serious stuff here now. This is the tough question. You're out here, like I always say, you're always out here.
Mm-hmm.
You are doing these shows, and you're doing these shows, and this is the hard question. This is the tough question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, me and you both are African American. We both I don't know that much about your background, but you are in the suburbs. You're not in the hood.
Well,
You can call it the hood if you want, but where you are right now.
it's where I'm at right now, I'm hood adjacent.
Okay.
Where I'm going to is the furthest thing from it. So I get it.
Yeah. So what I consider, me and you are from the suburban podcast part of podcasting. So the African American persuasion inside of podcasting has never appealed to me. It's not my business. I make a show because I'm clear to people. I don't care about my skin tone or whatever I look like. I provide you with a product. And I don't know if this has ever happened to you. And it happened to me because in the business ventures I do, I'm a business inside of podcasting. So some people see me going to do stuff with Black Podcasting as me cashing in on them, whatever the ones that are successful, and grabbing what I need from them and then throwing them back out there to swim in African American podcasting, as they call it. I am a further advocate in that I don't believe in African American podcasting. I believe that everybody's in podcasting, because there is no struggle in podcasting. If you produce a good show, your show has quality, your show will rise through the ranks. It will get where it needs to. You may not have the hype man or the motivation or the right people behind you at that time, but everybody's podcast can equally succeed as long as that shit's not dumpster juice. Yep. And it's not the same rhetoric of, oh, this me, oh, this my, why things have to be this way all the time. Because if it's like that, then put your podcast in another space and don't put it with other podcasts that promote society culture. Because your podcast is in the same veins as mine. You're a society culture podcast, even though you have comedy and other things. But society and culture gives you the broadest range to produce as many shows as you want to. So, as an African American podcaster, what are your feelings? And I said, this is a hard question. What are your feelings on the term when I say I am a Black podcast? What does that mean to you? How do you feel about that?
So,
that's the toughest question.
This is one, but I love this question. It's all over, because that same question applies to almost all alternative media. It applies to YouTube. It applies to Twitch. It applies to Facebook. All across the board. So, saying that, there's two meanings, and the funny thing is, when I hear it, I have to listen to understand which one it is. So, because when someone says I'm a Black podcaster, or I have to hear what you're doing. So if I go take a listen and it's dumpster juice, if your whole personality, if the personality of your podcast is solely I'm a Black podcaster, like if that's the actual personality of your podcast and you give me no value, then I know you said it for being Black in society points. Like, there's no way around. Like, if you want to take your podcast and claim your worth based off of being Black, and I go and listen and there is no value to your podcast, then I really want to tell you to hang up your mic and I'm gonna need you to go back to that 9 to 5. But when I hear it and I go and there's value to it, there's their podcast has personality, they have charisma. It's not just I'm here to be black and talk for an hour. Then I'm okay. Now you not only have pride in your podcast, but you have that pride in your race and your podcast, and they are both together and separate at the same time. It's not, oh, my podcast is good because I'm black, and it's not if you don't like my show, it's because you're racist. It's no, I'm black. I have a good podcast. I'm one that doesn't need to be overshadowed by the sea of garbage.
Okay, and I like that. I like that. Now I'm gonna be honest here with this whole thing real fast. And this is what gets me. When I hear it, I hear segregation. I hear black podcasters segregating themselves from every other podcast. Oh, I am the black podcast. And when I hear that, I'm like, this is what you fought so hard, or your forefathers, or whoever. Because not everybody's grandma was on the front for any of this civil rights stuff. Some of them have already been affirmated into society or whatever else. But I hear segregation for the simple fact that every podcast is a podcast. We genre podcasts by what they are: comedic, subculture, society culture, blah 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 blah, true crime, which those are the greatest podcasts. But I do a few episodes of that sometimes. But anyway, my whole main thing is that you gotta like. I always tell people, if you associate with that, please put it in a nice detail, because 100% my audience is everybody. But my core major audience being from the West Virginia, Ohio side of podcasting is Ohio. Listens to my podcast, and it is diverse. I've got listeners in each corner because I travel all over Ohio. Ohio is actually my real home technically. Ohio is so diverse that my listenership could be anybody.
Yeah.
If I didn't know who they were, and then once I figured out who they were, I was like, I'm not putting this out there, to mess up my vibe. Now I'm glad we got that one out the way, because that is a serious conversation that always comes up between podcasters when we're both black. We have to answer that question, because if we don't answer it, then people are gonna figure us to be like they said I was. They said I was some type of cash cow, just coming in to use them, get what I wanted, and then leave society, which I may have not, whatever. To each his own. To tie things together, because we've been in this podcast for quite some time, Des, I need you to give a shout out to somebody special who's helped you build yourself up to who you are today, or people who have helped you build yourself up today, because that's the one thing that we do here. And then after that, I need you to do the most sleaziest part of my show. The sleaziest part of my show is where you cut in and you do an ad for everything that you're doing. I want to know where people can meet and greet you and all that other stuff. So first, give you a shout out, and then do your little sleazy cut in, and let everybody know where they can meet and greet you and where they cannot meet and greet you also. Because sometimes you need to let people know that all access is not all good access.
Okay. So I gotta give a shout out. And that's one of those things we always feel like we gotta say. I gotta give a shout out to moms. Gotta give a shout out to my mom. Yeah, it's a big personal story, and I will know that I made it as a content creator if I share that story on why, if I ever get told to give a like a blanket shout out, it has to be my mom and my grandfather. I also got to give a shout out to the boys of For Too Many, because without that show, I wouldn't be doing any show, let alone 3. I probably wouldn't have kept up with my YouTube. I still would have been, I'll pop on, pop off, pop on, pop off. And I wouldn't take my Twitch seriously, because that's been a roller coaster. Now that I'm getting back into it, I wish I would have never left. So Got to give a shout out to the boys at For Too Many because they did a lot more for me than I think they know. And where to catch me? Because now it's becoming a list. So gotta check out For Too Many live on Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. That's the variety show with me, Doo-Wop, Socks, Jay Remy. Through this little project that you got going on, you're gonna hear from all of them. So definitely gonna want to check us out. You're gonna check me out on my YouTube channel and my Twitch channel. My twitch.tv/Seriously Shadows. My YouTube is the same name, Seriously Shadows. I'm glad my name was unique enough that I was able to take it everywhere. It wasn't taken wherever I went. So if you catch me on Twitter, if you catch me on, I don't go on Facebook. If you catch me on Instagram, it's all under Seriously Shadows. And that's abbreviated to SRS, not the whole word. You got to catch my show, the Project Serious Podcast. Name is subject to change, but that's probably going to stick for quite a while. And Shadows Behind the Game. That one, first episode's coming soon. Those you can catch on Spotify, Buzzsprout, wherever you listen to your podcast, or all of them. All of my projects will be on YouTube. YouTube is my central hub for everything. I was gonna give another shout out.
Yeah.
But it just gone. I wish my current future co-host-ish, my girl who co-hosts with me, I wish she was going back to streaming sometime soon, but maybe I can convince her to go back because she was doing way better than me, and that's who I would have been shouting out.
Okay, all right, so that stuff will work out there for itself. Now, once again, audience, you all do know that I do get the guests to write the show notes for their show. That's the coolness of when your show comes out, because if you write good show notes and SEO builds up for you, that's what I'm in podcasting for, because I look at the middle parts of management and the horrible places like Google Podcasts, because nobody uses that. Everybody uses Spotify or something else. So.
Yeah, no, all I ever see is Spotify, Pandora. Well, Apple. I guess I won't. Google, no, but Apple, yes.
Yeah. Google don't care about their podcast, and it's plain and generic. It just no bells and whistles, but it's good for SEO because anytime I search all stuff, except for episode 51, because I'm technical, something with episode 51, your show notes were not on point, but that's life. He's like, damn, this dude is really technical. He's like, I got to go back and find it because I'm a perfectionist.
Yep. I'm already looks like,
yeah, but and I could just be joking, so you never know with me. Because like I said, I got dry sense of humor too. But it could be after episode 51. But anyway, I want to thank you, Des, for coming. Now. Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna look now. Look at that. But you gotta do it. Listen, you gotta do it on Google Podcast, because you'll see like how your SEO goes for you guys, how it search through. That's how you build up a better deal with your mailing list and stuff like that, because then you know who's going to be on the podcast. Because I'll tell you this trick before we get off here that I had to learn. There's some people that don't listen to my podcast at all. Guess what they do? They read the transcription.
Huh? Really?
Yeah. And I've got them transcription readers, and they started off from Google Podcasts, catching it there, going to the blog that I don't advertise at all to read about the episodes, and they read them, and then they give me a download. I don't know why they give me a download, but they'll download the episode, not even listen to it, read it, because if you get 10 seconds on an episode, you get the download or stream, so or the stream at least. So 10 seconds they listen to, and I know that this person's being satisfied through that. So there's always different ways that people are becoming part of your podcast. Like I said, me and you are going to have a long conversation in the near future. Once again, Des, I want to thank you for coming on West Virginia and Commonplace. And this is me, JR. Stacy is doing other things. She did an interview with someone else, but this is my special showcase. I said showcase with For Too Many Podcasts. I'm going to have all members on, and then I'll bring you on as a group effort live, though. when we can all get that worked out, we'll get in the studio and I'll let you set up your studio and then I'll set up my studio beside it and we'll see which one works out better. Mac versus
Gotcha.
Windows. That's the challenge. See who can do it
Okay.
better. But I'm gonna do it with 5 mics. 5 mics.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna shut the game down.
Okay.
And we'll see how it rolls. So once again, you can check me out at www.uncommonplace.com. Once again, over on Instagram, get the bots jumping over at Tumblr if you like some of the shit over there. We're on Twitter, but I don't do much on Twitter. Twitter's never been my thing, and it's never gotten any traction. Definitely catch us on Snapchat.
On Twitter.
Yeah, definitely catch us on Snapchat for the After Dark stuff. And then once again, the greatest place that you can catch our behind the scenes, and as everybody's saying now, BTS, all the behind the scenes stuff is on TikTok. So guys, definitely head over to our TikTok, look at the behind the scenes stuff. When these Comic Cons and different video game events come around Columbus, because it's not a lot coming around Cleveland, but around Columbus, you will catch me. Hopefully, we can get Dez in the mix, and he might become a co-host on something we do video game wise. So once again, this is JR signing off with
Dez from For Too Many.